and welcome to Big Deal. Now, deals and disruptions were the key highlights of Reliance Industries' 42nd Annual General Meeting. Mergers and acquisitions and alliances are part of RIL's key strategy for two-pronged strategy: bolster the consumer-facing businesses and also deleveraging the balance sheet of the group. Now, there is a deal manifesting in each of the businesses of the company. In key highlights from the AGM, RIL announced the sale of 20% of its oil to chemicals business to Saudi Aramco for $15 billion of enterprise value. Now, this business will be carved out as a separate business division. Now, fuel retail tie-up with BP to fetch about $1 billion. In terms of telecom arm, Reliance Jio Infocom, that will venture into cloud and data centers in an exclusive tie-up with Microsoft. Now, after disrupting the telecom market, Jio will take its competitive edge to the fiber space as well, with the launch of on the 5th of September with 4K TV or set-top box on offer on certain plans as freebies as well. Now, in content, there is a plan to also provide movies first day, first show in the comfort of your living room. While all this is really tying in together, Reliance Industries also plans to get strategic or financial partners in both Jio as well as the retail businesses in the next few quarters. They also announced the listing of these companies in 5 years. So if I really look at the entire picture and put together all the pieces of the announcements, it is clearly looking like Reliance Industries will become a holdco with oil and chemical, retail and telecom businesses as separate entities in about 5 years from now. It's a massive exercise, and RIL plans to be a zero net debt company in the next 18 months, with some of these deals really manifesting by that time. We'll focus on some of these important announcements in a freewheeling discussion with some of the experts joining me. SP Tulsian, Rohan Dhamija joining us from the studios, and Naveen Mishra of Gartner will be also there on the phone line. Gentlemen, so good to have you on CNBC-TV18. Let me start with Mr. SP Tulsian. What do you think about the overall strategy and the way mergers and acquisitions as well as the alliances are really becoming a key part of RIL's strategy going forward?
So these are the serious statement of intent. Now come on each of these things. You have already alluded that the Saudi Aramco is seen coming in the OTC business, taking 20% stake, for which the modalities will be worked out for about $15 billion, with an EV of $75 billion being taken for that OTC business. Now come on the Reliance Jio. Mukesh Ambani has again been very categorical in saying that they are only looking for strategic investor. That means probably the next round of the telecom player we have not seen coming in India are from the US geography, and I am quite hopeful this time that all the efficient players from the US, whether you call it AT&T or Verizon or maybe Comcast or maybe the other players, will definitely be looking to come into India. But now the situation will be whether he'll wait for the revenue ramp up to happen for 1 year, or maybe he will allow the third player, which is the weak player in the Indian geography, allow it to phase out from the telecom sector. Difficult to say, but the one thing is certain, that he is looking for a strategic investor, and that too in the Reliance Jio, which will be seen quite positive by the market, because the new player who will be coming in the Jio will be having the muscles of finance as well as technology. Come on third, Reliance Retail. He has again been very categorical in saying that they are open with both strategic as well as financial. And if they go with the strategic, we won't be seeing the stake being given of maybe in the single digit or maybe closer to about 10%, as we have seen having given by the other retailers. He will definitely be looking for 24 to 26% stake, which will again fetch him in very good valuation. And fourth pocket is the real estate or maybe the monetization of the investments, and maybe the other media kind of things. Difficult to take a call on that point at this stage. But he is clearly defined the intent, and each pocket or each vertical can give them a sizable amount of investments coming into the company. We have already seen that happening with the passive infrastructure assets in the Reliance Jio, having hived off to an InvIT for about 1,25,000 crores. So these are the clear statement of intent of the asset monetization and the debt reduction at the company level.
Right. So that's the overall picture. Now let's take it one by one to some of the specific announcements that have been made. While Aramco deal has been much spoken about, the management has told on record that it will take some time. It will be in phases, and the next 4 months will be utilized by Aramco to really do the due diligence, and only after a definitive agreement really comes into place. And it will also mean that the oil and chemical business will be carved out as a separate division. But apart from that oil and gas space and the refinery space, we have big thrust coming in from the group on the technology side. Now, the Microsoft alliance was a big thing that has really come into focus. Let me bring in Rohan also in this discussion. So, Rohan, what do you make of the potential of data centers as well as cloud computing in the country, and why do you think Reliance Industries has ventured into this space and with an alliance with Microsoft?
Sure, Nisha. Thanks so much. So just building on what my fellow panelist SP Tulsian mentioned, specifically within the telecom business, we've seen that Jio has already made a big bang entry into the retail mobile side of the business. The Microsoft Azure deal now really addresses the enterprise side of the business. And with the Jio and Microsoft Azure coming together, it really is a win-win for both these partners as well as the end enterprise clients. So let me explain this a little bit, and let me take a step back. Just in terms of the thesis for this partnership, the cloud market in India is expected to have explosive growth over the next 5 odd years. It's currently about an under $1 billion market across infrastructure as a service and some other segments within cloud. We expect it to grow at about 35 to 40% CAGR to become a $5 billion plus market over the next 4 to 5 years. So in that sense, a high growth segment that Jio is going after. And then from a deal tenant perspective, for Jio, this helps it complete its enterprise suite by adding the services layer that Microsoft Azure gets in to the table to its infrastructure and connectivity offering. From Microsoft's perspective, it allows Microsoft to get exclusive access to probably the largest and best infrastructure and connectivity provider in the country. So win-win in that sense for both partners. From an end customer perspective, the fact that this combined partnership would disrupt prices for cloud and connectivity in a significant way, as we saw from the AGM announcements, it really is going to be the end enterprise customer that's going to be the biggest winner. Touching quickly upon how Jio and Azure are able to deliver this disruptive pricing within this space, 2 key tenets that drive disruptive pricing that Jio's announced. One, Jio and Microsoft Azure together, of course, have economies of scale that none of the other players have. And 2, they have access to fiber and connectivity in a way that no other player has. So the ability to bundle that at cost or just above cost really drives the fact that they would be able to offer a much lower pricing than competition.
Naveen,
so in that sense, in summary, a win-win for both parties, but most importantly, the end enterprise customer.
All right. So Rohan says that it will be equally disruptive. Naveen, you concur with that. Will Reliance do a Jio in this particular space as well, with an alliance coming in with Microsoft?
Yes, as far as the plans appear, it looks like it's going to be a disruptive move from Reliance Jio in the cloud space when they announced their partnership with Microsoft. And I mean, if we look at the projections for the future, and Rohan touched on it, from less than $2 billion today, we expect it to go around $5+ billion. And when we look into the assumptions behind this projection, I must admit that the microsector, the small, and actually the low end of the medium, that was something not factored heavily on the cloud uses. Now with this, as Microsoft brings the Azure and Office 365, plus Reliance, integrates their basic connectivity, this is going to drive the next wave of cloud adoption in the country. The ticket size, of course, is going to be fairly small. I mean, they talk about, as less as rupees 15,000. So given that, we all know India is a price-sensitive market. Clearly, I expect if the execution is done correctly, and there's a big if there though, but if that is done correctly, the whole lower end of the spectrum, starting from the micro and the small business, they would be driving the next wave of cloud adoption in India.
Right. Let me take SP Tulsian's view also on that. What do you have to say about this strategy by Reliance Industries? Of course, Jio has formed its base. Do you think that they'll be able to give a stiff competition to Amazon's AWS as well as Google here in India?
See, Nisha, what Rohan and Naveen has added, now let me add the third point here. You are rightly, you have touched upon the three players, and I would place them as in the same order. Amazon number 1, Microsoft number 2, and Google number 3. They've chosen to go with Microsoft. Now, I'm not trying to cast any aspirations on any of this integrity and all sort of thing, but if you see the two things, data integrity and privacy now are the key words, and in fact, you don't have the comfort with both the players, that is Amazon and Google world over. And second point, in respect to the focus of the government, for storage of the data in the country, I think keeping these things in view, if you see the Apple advertisement, now they are only advertising on the privacy part, because obviously that's a stricture passed on the competitors.
Right.
So they are trying to, they've chosen the partner of Microsoft, I think, by giving this clear thought on this two process of not going with Amazon or maybe with Google. And Amazon again seen being the competitor for the Reliance Retail.
Yes.
Their obvious choice remains either with Microsoft or with Google. And obviously Microsoft is seen to be more technically sound and more this one in the cloud and all sort of things. So I think that this is a very strategic move apart from the disruptive. This one, they've chosen the partnership with Microsoft on many other parameters where they will be scoring over the other two rivals in the clouds, that is Amazon and Google.
Oh, that's a very, very important point. It's data localization, which is a hot topic of discussion right now. Naveen, you want to add more on this? Could this be one of the drivers as well? And how will it really impact when it comes to this burning issue?
We all know there is a work in progress legislation which is working towards ensuring the fact that every organization needs to have a copy of data within the country, and that is fueling investment not only by Reliance actually. When they are going to invest into 2 data centers, we have seen conglomerates like Adani as well investing into it. Hiranandani, the real estate provider, also investing into it. So clearly, the big growth lever from a macro perspective that I see is the fact that there is more and more, legislative requirement, which is going to drive every organization, small, micro, medium, large, to keep their data within the local country. And that is why all the hyperscalers, the AWS, the Google, the IBM, everybody is investing into building a data center locally. And that's why I believe Reliance took this plunge as well in a way to partner with Microsoft and drive this further.
Right. So, Naveen, how do you see the adoption of cloud in the country? How fast is it growing, and what could be the potential?
So far, we talk about the second wave of cloud adoption, which is predominantly characterized by the large services companies, manufacturing, some of the banks and financial services. And where, actually we see the investment happening is predominantly looking at the office productivity suites, the ERP, some of the business critical workloads, and this is where all the investment is happening. Now, when we look into this, we expect the growth to happen somewhere in the range of 25 to 30% every year. So more and more new use cases would be moving to public cloud. Now, if I put things into context from a Reliance and Microsoft partnership perspective, we always discounted micro segment, the small segment, not actually contributing a lot towards the future of cloud because of two reasons. Number one, the price barrier. I mean, it was huge for the bottom of the pyramid, and that's why none of these companies could really invest into the cloud partnership.
Right.
Number two, the connectivity part, I mean, even if you look at the big boys like AWS or Microsoft, they always struggle with delivering the last mile experience with their enterprise customers who might be running multiple services at multiple locations. So the pricing for the bottom of the pyramid, as well as the network connectivity, where the two key bottlenecks, actually discouraging the cloud adoption in the micro sector, in the small sector. And if you look at the numbers which are available, different sources talk about anywhere from 10 million of these unique companies all the way to 20 or 30 million. So when we put things into perspective, I believe this partnership, which is going to address the connectivity part from the geo element, which is going to address the pricing part, rupees 1,500 plus,
right.
I think we would see the micro and the small actually driving the next wave of growth in India, which I would like to call it maybe as a third wave of cloud adoption within India.
All right. Thank you so much, Naveen Mishra, for joining us on the phone line. In fact, we'll take a short break on Big Deal at this point, and Rohan and SP Tulsian stay on with us. We'll discuss more in terms of how this particular transaction fits into the overall strategy for RelGeo and what are the other deal dynamics in the pipeline for Reliance Industries. Stay tuned to Big Deal.